Hello everyone and welcome back to Abundantly Minimal. My name is Sarah and today we're talking about those mistakes that new minimalists often make when decluttering and how you can fix it so you don't make those same mistakes. And I know for me this is different mistakes I've seen people make throughout my decluttering courses, maybe misconceptions people have as they start, or even thinking back to my own decluttering journey, I guess 6 years ago at this point when I first started. And I'm hopeful there's at least one or two mindset shifts here that we can make to help you have a much more effective and less stressful or difficult decluttering session. The first mistake that often happens the earliest when someone is wanting to get better control over their homes is thinking that it's an organization issue rather than a decluttering issue. Now, chances are if you're watching this video, maybe you are aware that it is a decluttering issue. But for some, they think, oh, it's not that I have too much stuff, it's that it's disorganized. I don't have a spot for it. And while disorganization definitely can be a struggle, the volume of items that we have absolutely plays a huge role. You can use all these different methods of organization, different bins and specialized containers, but at the end of the day, if you have too much stuff, it's just going to take a lot of bins and you're not necessarily going to have the same peace of mind as if you actually go through what is inside the bins or what you were thinking about putting in the bins in the first place and reflecting about actual needs of what needs to be kept and actual wants. What do you actually want to keep? Not just feeling like you should keep them. Mistake number 2 is that people try to rush through it. We want to obviously make good progress, and it feels really good when you're able to let go of a lot, but we have to acknowledge that decluttering is not going to be an instantaneous thing. It's going to take time as you go through things in a methodical way and making sure that you're not haphazardly decluttering just to let go of something. I know in previous videos I've spoken out against some of the popular like minimalist games that people play where you're, for instance, letting go of a certain number of items each day. What I have found with that is that some are more likely to just try to play the game and declutter that number of items without actually reflecting, especially those, higher number days, like in the 20s and the 30th of a month. They might be letting go of way more just to meet the quota rather than making those intentional choices. Of course, it depends how much stuff you have to start out, but I definitely encourage you to be mindful, take your time, slow and steady wins the race here ultimately as we're trying to make that gradual progress where you're not going to have regrets, where you're not going to accidentally declutter something that you wish you would have kept, and you can also do it in a more streamlined way. To build upon that last topic, mistake number 3 is when someone's trying to declutter and they're jumping from project to project. Now, this could also be just how we're wired as humans. I know for me, my mind jumps all over the place a lot of times. I can kind of have, 5 different projects all going on simultaneously, and it all usually gets balanced out, at the end of a day. But with decluttering, one of my first rounds of decluttering, I started in one part, maybe the bookshelf, and then I moved on to this other piece of furniture because I realized I needed to put something from the bookshelf there. And then I realized, oh shoot, I need to also go in this area. And what did I do? I got all the stuff out, made a big mess. There were piles everywhere. And did I successfully complete anything that day? Nope, I did not. The only thing I was successful at was making a bunch of piles. So it's really important, have a project in mind and stick to it. Now you might be thinking, well, what if I'm decluttering something or a certain area, let's say a drawer, and I realize I've got things that need to go somewhere else where I haven't yet organized, decluttered, and figured out what I want to do in that area. I always recommend that people have some sort of, it could be a staging area, just an area, box, bin where you can set something aside. And that's your temporary storage. It's not going to stay there forever, but have a specific spot where you can place these items so you know where they go and you know you'll have to deal with them, but you don't feel so tempted to start a bunch of different projects. That little hack of having an area to put things is a game changer. It seems simple, but if you haven't tried it yet, I highly recommend it. Mistake number 4 really gets into the mindset of decluttering. And the mistake many make is that they have a fear-based mindset. They are afraid to let go. They might be thinking, what if, whatever situation happens, then I'll need it. Or what if I spent a lot of money on it and I don't want to let it go. Or that would be a waste, right, if I let it go. And so often these individuals might be thinking about what they have to lose rather than the opportunity of what you have to gain if you let go of something. Now you might be wondering, what are the opportunities that I can gain from letting go of something? Of course, a more obvious one is space and openness, especially if you're decluttering items like furniture or something that was out on a surface that was very visible to you. Maybe that pesky pile of papers or whatever it is off in the corner that's always an irritation. Maybe it's deeper than that though. Maybe it's letting go of the guilt that you feel every time you look at something that you've been keeping but never used and think, why aren't I using it, and beating yourself up about it. That's not necessary, and out of sight, out of mind really does work. If you are able to let go of these things, there's so many opportunities that we can gain. Certain things might be a pain to clean or might bring up different memories that we don't necessarily want to continue bringing up. When we get into some of the emotional factors behind our clutter, sometimes there's some negativity there or some weight that we feel in regards to these. And so rather than constantly being afraid of what if I let go, let's think about a more positive outcome. What could possibly happen, when I let go? And thinking about those opportunities that come from it. And I think that will be a really good motivator for yourself as you're making progress. Mistake number 5 that I see regularly is that people start with their trouble zone. Now, what is your trouble zone? I want you to imagine what is that type of clutter that you have, or that one area of your home that you just really feel overwhelmed by, where it feels like it's out of control or a big mess, or even if you just don't know how to start. A lot of people feel like, I have to start there. That is the worst spot, so let's start there. And I really feel like that's an approach that's destined to fail, because those are trouble zones for a reason. They're generally more time consuming. They might be more overwhelming, stressful. A lot of times paper is a person's trouble zone, I've found as well. When thinking about these projects, if we feel overwhelmed, we're not going to take action. We're going to stop. We're going to tuck away and not take care of it. Now, it doesn't mean never take care of it, but I think there's a lot of areas that we can focus on that we do have control over, that we can improve so that the rest of the home feels better, and along the way you build some of those skills or habits that will make it easier for you to tackle that clutter later. It's sort of like tackling the easy stuff first, building that momentum, and then when you're ready to tackle the trouble zone, you can go for it. I always recommend, picking a surface. We've got a surface clutter challenge. Actually, I uploaded on the channel. I'll link that below if you want to give that a try, or even start with, a timed 15-minute declutter and see what you can take care of during that time. Also, a specific type of clutter can be helpful, such as going through shoes, pull all your shoes together and look at them, or any other like-minded items. Kitchen towels. It really can be so random, and any type of clutter will do. But those kind of things, kitchen towels are much easier to go through generally because there's probably less emotional attachment, and at the end of the day, they're just towels. Mistake number 6 often happens when people are very well-intentioned, but not necessarily seeing the bigger picture. And that is trying to scan or record everything. When decluttering, a great approach for many is to scan certain important documents to a digital file, so you can declutter the physical version, or taking a picture of it to record or remember it, maybe jotting things down. And I think these can be really powerful tools. However, it is important when we're decluttering to not just think, okay, I need to turn every item I have that's a physical item into some sort of digital rendering, whether that is scanning those documents, taking a picture of it, or even writing down what it is. We don't have to document everything. And unfortunately, if we do that, if we try to scan, every single document, not only will that take a really long time, but then you now have all your clutter just in digital format. You didn't actually go through and sift out what was most important and prioritize. And also, if you're manually uploading all this stuff and not properly labeling what you're scanning, good luck trying to find it. It will probably be even less organized than the printable paper version was. Having paper versions is not evil. It's more about the excess that's not been sifted through. That's the problem. So I encourage you, if you want to scan, if you want to go through these things, be mindful of it. Even for some people, they want to digitize their photos. That's great, but don't digitize every single photo that you've ever taken. Go through, figure out which ones are best, and digitize those instead. Because generally, not all of our stuff is created equal. Some things are much better than others. We want to prioritize what's better. Mistake number 7 is one that not only affects us when we're decluttering, but in a lot of other ways of life. And it's probably the most important for everyone, not just those who are new to decluttering. And that is comparing oneself. Because when we are comparing oneself, not only does that often make us feel worse about ourselves if we haven't made the progress we want, but also we're probably failing to acknowledge different lifestyle factors that are different between ourselves and the person we're comparing ourselves against that really change everything. For instance, I hope that no one is ever trying to compare themselves or their home to me and my home, but, in case it's happening, there's a lot of different factors here. For instance, it must be acknowledged that I don't have kids yet. And if you've got a family, or if you've got, other people like living with you, that becomes a lot more difficult to have a minimal home because you've got multiple people, way more than just my husband and I living here and involved in the number of belongings you have and the stuff. That's a big difference. So the number of people in your family. Someone's job and work situation makes a difference. If you've got a very balanced life and work schedule, that's going to really make it easier. But if you've got a really busy job, I've been there. I'm trying to get better. I still have workaholic tendencies myself. But if you're working a lot, that's way tougher to balance having a decluttered and simplified home, especially in those early phases where it requires a lot of extra effort and time. It's also, if you're out of the home more, can be difficult. I do have the privilege of working from home at this point, and so that makes it easier for me since I don't have to worry about a commute and long hours like at an office or anything like that. You also don't necessarily know the size of someone's home. I know I shared in my most recent video a tour of my home, but if someone has a much larger space or like a big basement or other areas, their home might look more minimal and put together, but you're not necessarily looking through every nook and cranny of like the storage areas in those spaces. And those can certainly look a little bit more out of hand and be concealing things that you can't necessarily compare. Although there's many other ways that people make comparisons between themselves and others, it's also important to address that there are a lot of things that are invisible that we can't tell from, let's say, looking at someone's home. We can't tell, how that person is feeling with themselves, mentally, emotionally, physically. We don't know what people are battling and what pain people are dealing with as they're living their lives. We don't know what their relationships are like. We don't know what their finances are like because it doesn't necessarily correlate someone's home and someone's finances. So there's really so much we don't know, which makes comparisons pretty much useless. Heck, there's even age comparisons. Someone may be further along than you, but also, they've had different life experiences. They may be older, they may be younger, and not have done the same kind of things you have done. That doesn't make your situation worse. So all these examples really point to the fact that comparisons are pointless, and we don't want to be using those as a way to make ourselves feel bad about ourselves. I think we can be inspired by other people for what it's worth, and I think we can find good ideas of what other people are doing and think about perspectives in a way that's different. But at the end of the day, the only comparisons we can make is our yesterdays to today and set hopes and goals for tomorrow, our own personal progress. And that's why, if you haven't already done it, take those before photos of different things in your space and monitor your own progress. This is your path. You are on this journey for yourself and your family. So I encourage you to really channel that as you're going through and decluttering. I hope that you found this video to be helpful. I do have some free guides and ebooks that I'll link below that can take you further if you are new to decluttering and looking for some additional tips and like a plan to help you. And I'll also put some other related videos here on the screen. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.